How we brewing, people? Welcome to another Brews at 10 here on my left eye. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they, thems and comrades alike, a very warm welcome to all viewers this evening. I'm your host Lefty. Thanks a lot for joining me here tonight. Let us know how you're doing in the chat. Chris and Morbius, great to see you in on the chat early. Solidari-Tea. Alas, another Wednesday is upon us, so another PMQ's analysis coming up. Plus more. Tig, Solar, how are you? Hope you're well this evening, thanks for joining us. We're just getting nice and warmed up here on the stream. Commentary and analysis of PMQs to come, as I said. Plus other stories, articles, goings on. There was a huge monumental court case that started today around Just Stop Oil climate protesters who are imprisoned at the moment. An appeal on the draconian sentencing, of course, which I mentioned quite a few times on the channel previously. Plus a few other bits and pieces. So, Jacqueline, great to see you too in the chats. See you back in a moment. Hello, you must be going. So yes, please do make sure you've hit thumbs up on the stream. Give us a bit of a boost on the algorithm by sharing it around your social media if you like as well. And at the moment, we're available on Blue Sky, which is the preferred way of following my left eye on social media, as the time on Twitter might soon be coming to an end. But we're also available on Mastodon as well. So yeah, if you followed the mass migration away from Twitter to Blue Sky or Mastodon, please do hit us up. So, Brew Crew, what's been happening since I last saw you? A few bits and pieces. I will be filling you in. I've got an update on that gifted membership situation that we spoke about on recent live streams. But in the news as well, there was actually quite a positive political move yesterday. For a change, all around the WASPy women. There was a vote in Parliament put forward by the SNP about the WASPy women who essentially had their pensions stolen from them, or I guess at best you could put it is held to ransom, and quite a monumental victory there. Oh yes, Mobius, don't forget the thumbs up. Please do all make sure you've hit that thumbs up button. Yeah, I'll talk a little about the WASPy women thing just before we go into PMQs. I'm wondering if that's going to come up, actually. This will, of course, as always, be my first time watching today's PMQs. Genuine reaction, plus analysis, quality streaming, and quality viewers as well. Thanks a lot for joining us. Andy Carter, great to see you, brother. Okay, I'll just give a customary thanks to all the members while I'm heading in that general direction, and then we'll get the chat up so we can see all you chat members on the stream. But a special thanks to everybody here on the list. Thanks a lot to everybody who's gifted memberships recently. I guess now would be a good time, as good a time as any, to bring you up to speed with that situation about the memberships. I did get in touch with YouTube support, Google support, live. Had a chat with one of their people. So here's the latest. I did bring up, obviously, the fact that gifted memberships were sort of getting bounced back. People were getting refunded and the memberships weren't going through. Well, there's two main bits, really. First off, they advised me to remind you that only members can buy gifts for other people, as well as the fact that it can only be done from a desktop. So I'm not sure if anyone tried to buy memberships when you weren't on desktop, or if you're not a member, but that is one of the conditions apparently. The only other thing that they could advise me on is that individuals who've had memberships bounce back and been refunded to contact individually themselves, contact Google support themselves. So that's the latest on that. We'll see how we do this evening. Yeah, so apologies for that, but I do still appreciate the gesture. And also, just want to give thanks to somebody who visited the Buy Me a Coffee page recently. Anybody whose memberships haven't gone through, some of you have gone over to the Buy Me a Coffee page instead. Much appreciated. Do like to stay caffeinated, of course. It's very important for your humble host Lefty to stay refreshed. So thanks again for that. Solidari-Tea, or Solidari-Coffee in this case. Odin, great to see you as well. Let's bring up the chat like I said. There we go. Now we can see you people. Well, Andy Carter, thank you very much for those gifted memberships. Let's keep our fingers crossed. I'm noticing the names aren't appearing underneath again. I did mention that as well when I was talking to YouTube or Google support, I guess technically it is. Yeah, Doc, they just said from desktop, I guess laptops are included in that. Basically, I guess that eliminates using your phone, is essentially what they were saying, or a tablet. So I think phones and tablets, they won't go through, but they should go through if it's on a desktop. I say should. Yeah, they also pointed out that you have to be a member as well to buy other gift memberships. Yeah, that has been a bit frustrating, to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. But I do, of course, appreciate all the generosity that supporters of the channel put out. Always appreciated. As well as your thoughts and comments on videos and here in the chat on live stream. It's good to see the community building. Thanks for throwing up the Palestine flags as well, as I see a few of you have been doing in the chat. As always. Yeah, thanks for that, Kira and others. Free Palestine. Well, Mobius, have you got some alternative information that might be of use? Please do let me know. I mean, I've downloaded the whole conversation actually, just to be able to remind myself exactly what they said. I've not got it queued up in the broadcast software to be able to show you. I've just sort of summarised it, give you a synopsis, an evaluation of the conversation, as it were. Flow Snake, great to see you. Davinia in the chat also. Liking the teapots there, Jacqueline. Great technical advice there from Odin Allfather. If you just put your laptop on a desk, it automatically becomes a desktop. Well, I guess by that logic, the same would apply to a tablet or a phone as well. It's on top of a desk, Yeah, Mobius, I did notice that with other streams. Obviously, I do follow others as well. Yeah, that's the one thing that's been frustrating me. Very curious indeed. I do have a comedy clip, of course, coming up before we crack on to PMQs in just a few moments. Kit, great to see you. Hope you're brewing well this evening. Yeah, of course, Odin, it was just tongue-in-cheek about the phones on desks. I'll just check I've got all my bookmarks and everything in order. A second. Should be good to go. I wanted to say as well, just a reminder, the new live stream segment feature that I mentioned previously, specifically Trump and Musk's Batshit Crazy Corner. So I've added a segment from the Sunday live stream to that playlist now. If you want to check out the Trump and Musk's Batshit Crazy Corner playlist, keep up to speed with what those pair of fuckwits are doing at any given moment. Andy, thank you for the super chat there. Wonderful stuff. Let's give you a... There you go. Thank you so much. Very kind. And a thumbs up on that as well, I think. Yes, I can. I can give the thumbs up. Of course I can. Thanks again, brother. Solidari-Tea. Okay, I'll just get the comedy clip ready. This is a good one. It's another one there. From Exploding Heads. It needs no introduction. I'm sure an audience of your calibre will be able to realise the allegories or metaphors that are being used in this particular sketch. You'll know who they're talking about pretty close into it. Great stuff again from the Exploding Heads, so go and check them out if you don't do so already. This is the latest from them.
Now, Zork, the puppy destroyer, is acting a little cryptically of late and using fairly robust language. It's hard to decipher, isn't it?
No, it's not hard to decipher. He literally wants to destroy puppies.
Well, let's not overreact here. His supporters would argue that he's never destroyed a puppy in the past, and there's no evidence he wishes to do so in the future.
He regularly agrees with people on social media who say they want to destroy puppies. He recently spoke at a puppy destroying convention, and he's just moved next door to a puppy farm.
Oh, come on. on. His defenders would argue that a wide range of topics were discussed at that particular conference, and you can't choose who your neighbours are when you move house. Let's have some balance here. I have a puppy myself, and I have met Zork, and he's a charming figure, if a little elusive.
He's told us many times he wants to destroy puppies. I think we should reasonably expect him to start killing puppies.
Hi, darling. Our puppy has been destroyed. Okay. So, Zork has destroyed a puppy, but what does it mean? And was it in fact the correct thing to do? Now, Zork...
Yeah. You know what they're getting at. I'm sure you know what they're getting at, or who they're getting at. I'll give you a clue. Rick Mail hasn't liked some of the things he's been doing and saying recently here on My Left Eye. Okay, sorry guys, I was just having a bit of a scroll through the chat there. Just seeing how you're all doing. Thanks again, Andy Cars, for that super chat. Oh, apologies. Yeah, we'll get to PMQs pretty much straight away. Just want to say a bit more about the Waspy Women vote yesterday. So it was the SNP that put it forward. It went through by 105 votes. Very telling signs in the vote itself. Even though it won by 105 votes, it won by 105 to 0, with Labour apparently being neutral on the matter and abstaining, if you can be neutral on pensioners getting fleeced. But recent evidence does suggest that there's not a lot of love between Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves and pensioners at the moment, does there, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they thems, comrades alike. So yes, all of Labour abstained, nobody voted against it, and it went through by 105 votes. That was after, of course, Rachel Reeves decided to give them naff all, even though the Ombudsman's law recommendations weren't even met by Rachel Reeves. So yeah, that could be one of the hot topics as we go into PMQs. As for the game that we always play, regular viewers will know we keep count of how many times certain phrases get spoken in the House of Commons during PMQs. Going to be the same as last week. The new contender, Change, managing to force a late dramatic draw. Even winning at one point towards the latter stages before a very late comeback from Deliver, which is the other phrase that we keep count of. So let's just go over. So what's happening? I do have to say as well, for anybody who's not familiar with the rules on this one. So for the word change, we only count it if Keir Starmer says it. But for deliver, when we'll see an appearance by Postman Twat, I'll show you the pictures in a moment, that can be said by anybody. And it was 5-5 last time out. Change was winning by 5-3, I believe it was. So there's the logos there. Yeah, so basically every time one of those two phrases is uttered, you'll hear the bell, hopefully, if I'm keeping up to speed with it. Thanks to people in the chat for helping out now and then. I do miss the occasional one. So yeah, change and deliver with Postman Twat there, who is quite a long-reigning, undefeated champion. Challengers have come and gone, including the £22 billion black hole, among others. So yeah, same challenge, same rules as last week. Oh, Kit, you've run out of milk for another brew. That is a disaster. My heart goes out. I do not like when that happens. If you realise you've forgotten the milk or something like that. Red F, great to see you in the chat. Okay, are we ready, people? Let's get going. Let's get Lindsay ready. Just kill the background music and we're good to go. Let's get straight into it.
Questions,
here we go.
Damien Eagle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number one, please.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Communities across the United Kingdom have been hit hard by Storm Eowyn. I spoke with the leaders of the devolved administrations in Scotland and Northern Ireland over the weekend to work with them on support that's required and to pay tribute to all those responding on the front line. Mr. Speaker, kick-starting economic growth is the #1 mission of this government, to put more money in people's pockets and deliver on our plan for change.
Well, we
Today,
went straight
the
into
Chancellor
it.
announced our next steps
we've
to
got
deliver
our
the plan
first
for change. A new Oxford-Cambridge corridor,
appearance from
redeveloping
Postman
Old
Twats.
Trafford and supporting new runway at Heathrow. We're removing the barriers to investment, supporting innovation and going further and faster to boost growth. Mr. Speaker, this morning I
Ross would
had
be a good
meetings with ministerial colleagues and others.
challenger
In
as
addition
well.
to my duties in this House, I shall have
Are
further
there such meetings later today? And for
Mr. Speaker,
by
this April, the state
breakfast
pension
I had
increased by
hostages and
£470,
eggs.
and over the course of this Parliament by up to £1,900, benefiting millions of pensioners.
we did get a change in there as well.
Does the Prime Minister agree that
Heavy
means
scoring
testing
already.
the state pension would do severe harm? And will he confirm that this government will always protect the state pension and the triple lock?
Let me be absolutely clear, Mr. Speaker. There will be no means testings of the state pension under this Labour government. We're committed both to the triple lock and to the principle that people should receive pension based on their contribution, regardless of their wealth. And he's right to say 12 million pensioners receiving £470 increase in April. And when people like the Leader of the Opposition say they want means testing, that means
Oh, buffering.
a cut. The difference is they cut pensions, we're increasing them.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Bennett.
Mr. Speaker, may I take this opportunity to solemnly commemorate the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, and we remember the 6 million Jewish men, women,
Kit,
and children
thanks for
who
the
were
gifted
murdered.
membership there.
The Holocaust stands as a unique evil in human history. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister set his growth test. He said if a policy is good for growth, the answer is yes. If it's not, The answer is no. This morning, the Chancellor embraced a series of Conservative policies. Although many are welcomed, they will take years to deliver.
Wow.
Mr. Speaker, when Conservatives left office, we had the fastest economic growth in the G7. But what is the government doing for growth now? It's destroying it. Let's look at the employment bill. The government's own figures say it will cost business £5 billion a year. It clearly fails the Prime Minister's
Sorry about the buffering here, people.
growth test. Will he drop it?
Mr. Speaker, I think the proposition they left a golden inheritance was tested on the 4th of July, which is why they're standing there. But she asked what we're doing. The ONS say we've got the highest investment for 19 years. PwC, second best place to invest in the world. IMF upgrading growth, predicted fastest growing major economy in Europe. Wages up, inflation down. Mr. Speaker, there's more to do. We're reforming planning and regulation, building the new homes that we need, supporting a third runway at Heathrow. And as she admitted to the CBI in November, there's no
desktops.
point me just complaining about Labour, she said. It's obvious that we Conservatives lost the confidence of business. We're not taking lectures from them.
Mr. Speaker, he doesn't want to talk about the employment bill because he doesn't know about it. Last week, he misled the House. He was not on top of his own education bill, listening to
Sorry.
I'm gonna intervene as well as Lindsay Hall. Just one sec, Mark, to just reduce the quality slightly. Sorry for it. Isn't quite as good a quality picture.
We can't accuse the Prime Minister of misleading the House. No. Well, he can't do it. I'm sure there's words that you would prefer to use.
Of course. Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, just stand there and open the lie then.
Mr. Speaker, last week he claimed to have laid down an amendment that he had not made. He doesn't know what is going on in here or out there. Last week, I spoke to a woman running a business in Exeter. She is terrified of taking on new staff. She is struggling to keep her head above water, dreading what this government will do next. She's not alone.
Yeah, sorry, Red F, good point though. Just wanted to interject. As well as the WASPy women, which happened in the news recently. I'm not sure if PMQs took place before or after Reeves announced that she was going to be back in the third runway at Heathrow. So it'll be interesting to see if that comes up. I'll get onto that later if it doesn't come up in PMQs anyway. But yeah, not sure which order they happened in, so we'll see.
The Federation of Small Businesses says 92% of small employers are concerned about the employment bill. Clauses 1 through 6 make it harder for business to hire new employees, often young people looking for their first job. This isn't an employment bill, it's an unemployment bill. Given these clauses, will he drop his bill and show that he is not anti-growth?
Mr. Speaker, we believe in giving people proper dignity and protection at work. That's why we're proud of our record supporting workers. They consistently
Unless they go
vote
on
against
strike.
any protection for working people.
We don't like that.
And her consistent refrain is that there should be less. But, Mr. Speaker, we are driving growth on behalf of working people. Good work rights are consistent with growth. Every good business knows that. And on top of the planning reform, the building of the houses, supporting aviation, the Chancellor this morning spoke of the Oxford-Cambridge growth corridor, redeveloping Old Trafford, manufacturing at East Midlands Airport. We want to grow the economy. The only policy
for God's sake,
is to
change
shrink
the
pensions.
frigging record. Okay, growth one more time. I'm going to get a
all his
nosebleed.
ideas are the ones that we thought of. He needs ensure that we deliver for growth now as well as the future. To grow our economy, we must get more people off sickness and welfare and into work. Clauses 8 and 9 of the unemployment bill take us in the opposite direction by increasing entitlements. Government itself,
Also note how Kemi Badenoch is saying, "You're crap" 1 minute and then you're copying us the next. Is there perhaps some subconscious self-loathing there, Kemi? Perhaps? Why don't you lay down on the couch and tell us all about it? So, you don't like what they're doing, but they're copying what you're doing, but you don't approve of what they're doing, though it mimics you. Okay, make it make sense.
government itself estimates that these changes will increase business costs from £600 million to £1 billion a year in sick pay. That will mean higher prices, fewer jobs, less growth. Will he drop these measures from the bill?
Prime Minister? No, Mr. Speaker. I think they're good for workers and good for growth. This is the same argument they made against the minimum wage and every protection for workers. And she says they're their ideas. Mr. Speaker, she says she's in support of a third runway at Heathrow. Her shadow transport secretary says that it'd be calamitous. The shadow business secretary is busy writing letters opposing airport expansion.
That settles it. Oh, fuck me. So this must have been before Reeves announced it, and he's criticising the Tories for wanting a third runway at Heathrow Airport, which was announced by Labour the same day. Today. Is that what just happened? Am I going crazy? Or did that just happen? Yeah. For my next birthday, someone please get me a new hypocrisy meter or irony meter, because, yeah, the mercury's just blown all over the place on the... Gee. Where do I begin? Oh. God. Oh. Let's crack on. Let's crack on. That was a thing. That was a thing. I'm glad that there were witnesses, otherwise I thought I might have been having some sort of strange mental breakdown or episode of some description. Obviously, I'm totally against the idea of a third runway at Heathrow Airport for environmental and economic reasons. It's a terrible idea. I won't go into the finer details of it while we're getting through PMQs maybe a little later, but that happened and that was a thing.
His own backyard. Shadow Chief Secretary says the Oxford-Cambridge idea is flawed and he's against it. We're the coalition of builders, they're the coalition of blockers.
Mr. Speaker, he forgets his own Chancellor blocked an airport in her constituency. They are hypocrites, Mr. Speaker. Let's talk about this employment bill. Part 1 of the bill means a new employee could start a job in the morning and take their employer to a tribunal that afternoon. It is no wonder that this bill has been called
what if they would be mistreated? Then what's wrong with that?
For lawyers.
Won't that be democratic
this bill
and
is terrible
justified,
for business,
Kemi?
but it is great employment for lawyers. I know the Prime Minister loves the legal profession,
just 1 second,
but he needs to stop being a lawyer and start being a leader. This is...
Again. Your rights as a worker start the moment you sign that contract, whether you want to take your employer to a tribunal on the first day of working for him, or the 100th, or the 1000th. You have the right to do so if you are being mistreated or misrepresented in some way. That is why you have tribunals. If they can get sacked on the first day, then they should be able to take their employer to a tribunal on the first day. You start getting paid from the first day. So for some reason, why does Kemi Badenoch think that your legal rights to represent yourself via your trade union or through tribunals doesn't apply from the moment you sign the contracts? Give me strength.
This is another measure in the bill that
Where's Reeves?
fails his growth
Not seen
test.
Reeves yet.
Will he show some leadership and drop it?
Mr. Speaker, I understand she likes straight talking. She's talking absolute nonsense. She knows, and anybody understands anything about the bill or any employment law will know you can't start in the morning and go to the tribunal in the afternoon. Now, Mr. Speaker, we know she's not a lawyer. She's clearly not a leader. If she keeps on like this, she is going to be the next lettuce.
Yeah, logistically that wouldn't happen.
Mr. Speaker, he does
have
not
the rights
know
to do
what
so.
his bill is doing. He should listen to business who are terrified of this bill. The only workers he cares about are lawyers, but it is not just lawyers benefiting from this bill. Who else benefits? It's not taxpayers. They will be paying for even more welfare. It's not young workers. They won't get their first break. It's definitely not businesses. They are being hammered with yet more burdens. Who benefits, Mr. Speaker? Who benefits? It's the trade unions. It's the trade unions.
Oh, piss off, Kemi
Part 4
Badenoch.
of the unemployment bill.
Keir Starmer
Part 4, they haven't read it. Part 4 of the
doesn't give a
unemployment
hoot
bill
about
is
the
the
trade
biggest
unions. He hates
expansion
them.
of trade
They
union
hate him.
powers for a generation. Exactly. Thank you. The public
I
will
don't
have heard
even
them cheer.
pretend for 1
Rather
minute
than
that the Tories were
deregulating
behind
for
trade
business
unions.
who create growth, he's
Especially the
deregulating for the
hardcore
unions.
Thatcherites.
Clause 61 alone reduces the notice period for strikes to just 1 week. Given strikes are catastrophic for growth, will he drop Part 4 of the bill?
Mr. Speaker, it's good for working people and it's good for the economy. And she should keep up. The CBI have welcomed our positive steps this morning. Their quotes. The Chancellor's just given a brilliant speech on the economy.
Ooh, okay. So, this runway isn't going to be active for decades, Keith. How is that going to really kickstart the growth that you can't shut up about here in 2025 that's needed? Do you remember when he said, change begins now? Change begins now. Just as long as you've got time to build a runway at an international airport and get it operational. And even then it won't be a good idea. Someone pointed out on TV earlier on, I can't remember who it was or what the show was. Apologies. I can't name the source or credit the source. But they essentially said, for every 2 people who leave Heathrow Airport, only 1 comes back. So it doesn't stimulate the economy in that sense. That means more people moving abroad via Heathrow Airport, and they only want to accelerate that anyway. It doesn't make sense either way, let alone the obvious environmental costs and how there is no way under our current legal commitments on CO2 output that we can build a 3rd runway at Heathrow or any other airport. Just no. It's not the way we should be heading. Stick it up your arse, Keith.
Fixing the mess they left and growing our economy. CBI said they celebrate the positive leadership, a clear vision to kickstart our economy. That's the difference. We're growing the economy. They left it in a complete mess.
Mr. Speaker, the arrogance of the Prime Minister is that he thinks that it's his government that creates growth. He's wrong. It is business that creates growth. Our economy is built by entrepreneurs, risk takers, and the hard graft of working people. They know that you can't tax your way to growth. You can't borrow your way to growth. You can't legislate your way to growth. Other countries are serious about freeing business from red tape. President Trump is doing it in America. Argentina is taking a chainsaw to regulations. Even the EU is not going as far as this left-wing government.
She just came down with the last drop of rain or something.
At the bottom of the pack. Add it to the jobs tax, the family business tax. It's no wonder wealth creators are fleeing Britain in droves. The Chancellor is desperately trying to save her reputation. She knows Labour have damaged growth. This bill manifestly fails the Prime Minister's own growth test. If he won't drop the unemployment bill, what is the point of his growth test?
She's got a nerve. They broke the economy, completely destroyed it. They broke the health service, completely destroyed it. They ruined us on prisons and everything else you can mention. They failed on every front. They're in no position to give us lectures on anything. And she says that she accepts they failed.
As far as the NHS is concerned, Wes Streeting's just said, hold my beer.
Absolutely
How
nothing.
much you can trash it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome the government's action last week to tackle rogue traders who installed faulty home insulation, affecting many of my Luton South and South Bedfordshire constituents. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that Labour's Warm Homes plan will tackle fuel poverty and bring down bills for families as part of our plan for change?
God.
Well, I thank her for that question.
The Oscar goes to someone else, lady.
Got a lot to answer for in the failing system that left behind. We've taken immediate action to ensure consumers insulating their homes are not let down.
It's a perfectly
again.
normal conversation, people. It's not set up.
For our Warm Homes plan to upgrade 5 million homes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader of the Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
That was the short play Aren't We Great, written and scripted by Keir Starmer.
Memorial Day Trust, all their work in commemorating the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, and say what a privilege it was to meet Holocaust survivors at their Guildhall event. When the honourable member, my honourable friend for North Devon, and I recently visited a hospital in Barnstaple, a surgeon there told us that it was like a ticking time bomb. He explained that a hospital that size needs 12 operating theatres to meet demand. They've got just 4. The last Conservative government promised to rebuild it, and we all know that was a hollow promise. Now the North Devon District Hospital is one of 9 across the country where their urgent rebuild programme has now been postponed for over 10 years. So will the Prime Minister meet honourable members whose constituents' lives are being harmed by this delay to see if there's any way we can bring these urgent projects forward?
Well, can I join him in his comments about the Holocaust survivors that we met earlier this week? It was incredibly moving, as it always is, and I was struck by the fact that there were so many in the gathering that we were at, and we're unlikely to see so many in one place like that again, and we must never ever forget. On the question of hospitals, look, I think people across the country are right to feel angry and betrayed and frustrated at the last government's non-plan on hospitals. It was unachievable, it was unfunded, it was empty promises. Under them, these hospitals would never...
Look who's talking, Keith. Look who's talking. Look who's talking. Yeah, you're right, Oxo. Just a brief aside, there was a small fire at one of the temporary merchandise stands outside at the Etihad Stadium at Man City's Champions League game today, but no one was hurt or anything. The game went ahead. And they won 3-1.
Last week, the Prime Minister told me that it was going to take 3 years before social care reforms could be implemented. Now he's saying that urgent hospital rebuilds are going to take more than a decade. My honourable friends and I will keep coming back to this issue. If I can turn to economic growth, the Chancellor has now admitted that we need to go further and faster in the pursuit of economic growth, and we agree. But the Prime Minister knows we believe that means setting aside his objections to a UK-EU customs union, so our country can go further and faster in rebuilding our trading relationships with our European neighbours, especially with a threat to world trade posed by Trump's tariffs and Trump's trade wars. But if he won't change his mind today on a customs union, When he goes to Brussels on Monday, will he confirm to the House that he will open negotiations for the UK to join the Pan-Euro-Mediterranean Convention so we can start removing the growth-damaging trade barriers set up by the Conservatives?
Our number one mission is growth. That's why we've set out all the initiatives over the last 7 months, particularly the ones this morning. He knows in relation to the reset with the EU, which we're determined to achieve, that we have clear red lines when it comes to the single market and the customs union. So he knows where we stand on that.
Debbie Abraham.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No, then.
Today's Joseph Rowntree Foundation report on UK poverty not only highlights who is most likely to be poor, but also the scale and increase in deep and enduring poverty. I was encouraged by the Prime Minister's response to me before Christmas at the Liaison Committee, where he explained and acknowledged that disabled people experience poverty because of their extra costs, and that while over 2 million disabled people can and want to work, many others cannot and should receive adequate support. Many vulnerable claimants are worried following speculation that the £3 billion of savings to be found in the Social Security budget may impact on their disability benefits. Will my right honourable friend agree with me that language matters?
£3 billion, well, that just happens to be the exact amount that we give to Ukraine every year, and will do for the next 100 years,
I know it's
doesn't
an
it?
issue that
But no, we can't
she's,
find money for disabled
deeply
people
concerned
anywhere.
about and campaigns on.
Talking
The
about.
rise in poverty, Mr. Speaker, caused by the mismanagement of the economy by the party opposite is unacceptable.
Well, in
our approach
the specific
to
case
social
that she mentioned there,
security
Keith,
will
it
ensure that work
could
is accessible to as many
be resolved
people as possible as a
by
route
you
out
not
of
continuing to
poverty.
fund war
Mr. Speaker,
and
that
continuing
includes the
to
new
fund
Connect to Work
far-right
programme,
maniacs
expected to help 100,000
like
disabled
Zelensky
people find and stay
and
in
Netanyahu.
work.
Gavin Robinson.
Speaker, may I firstly thank the Prime Minister and the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster for their sterling support over the last number of days for Northern Ireland in the aftermath of Storm AO, and it's greatly appreciated and demonstrates how well the Union works. Mr. Speaker, on the 15th of August 1998, the fragility of peace in Northern Ireland was shattered when the real IRA detonated a bomb in Omagh town. 29 people died and a further 2 unborn twins never saw this world. Through the dignity and the stoic campaigning of Michael Gallagher, whose son Aidan died, a public inquiry was secured through the courts, who recommended in 2021 that the Irish government should similarly hold an inquiry to understand what could have been prevented, given the cross-border nature of this atrocity. The bomb was prepared in the Irish Republic and transported from the Irish Republic. Will he use his good offices to ensure that truth is delivered and justice arrives for the families of those who so needlessly lost their lives from Irish Republican terrorism?
First, on the question of the storm, can I assure him that we will continue to work with
Healthy 4-1 lead now for Deliver.
Ireland to ensure that we deal with what was really devastating in Northern Ireland for very many people still without
just doing a bit of
power
Ireland
and all the
bashing here.
associated problems that are associated
Tory.
with that. In relation to the Omagh bombing inquiry, I thank him for raising this. It was a heinous and cowardly terrorist attack, and it shocked the world. Our thoughts are with the family members now taking part in commemorative hearings this week. I do welcome the Irish Government's commitment to cooperate with the inquiry. The Secretary of State for Northern Ireland has raised with the Irish Government the importance
Vicky
of
Clee,
working
nice to see you.
together on addressing
Thanks for joining
these
us.
and all legacy issues.
Hope
I'm
you're doing well.
grateful to
Hope
him
you're
for
brewing
raising
well.
this very serious and important issue.
Jack Abbott.
Mr. Speaker, the Ipswich Northern Bypass is a project of local, regional and national importance, one on which the future of our town and county hinges. But this critical project has been gathering dust for years, repeatedly blocked by people who refuse to act in our long-term interests. The Prime Minister has set out how our government will back the builders over the blockers. Will he now back the builders in my town and make this a project of national significance through our plan for change?
Well, he's been relentless in seeking to boost growth and investment in Ipswich and Suffolk, and the gridlock his constituents face underlines the failure of the party opposite to deal with this when they had the chance to do so. Mr Speaker, we will fast-track decisions on at least 150 major economic infrastructure projects to kick-start growth, and I will make sure he gets a meeting with the relevant minister to discuss the issues of concern to him.
In room.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As my right honourable friend said earlier, last week North Devon District Hospital got the devastating news that investment would be delayed 10 years beyond 2035. In the 5 years since the last government's empty promises, our hospital's maintenance backlog has grown to over £40 million. Given that £200 million has reportedly been spent just on consultancy fees for the new hospital programme, what funding for extra maintenance will be available for those hospitals that now face another decade of waiting?
I thank him for raising this, and his constituents will be angry and frustrated at the empty, unfunded promises left by the Conservatives. Let's be clear, under their non-plan, North Devon District Hospital would simply not have been delivered. It's not been delayed, it was never going to be delivered, and they know it. He knows it.
I'm not familiar with that member, though. He doesn't have a Devon accent, far from it. He sounds like he's from up north.
Constituents know it. We have put in place a funded, deliverable plan that will see the hospital built, and will work closely with the Trust to accelerate work. And the party opposite really owe his constituents an apology.
Deirdre Cosson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Children in Ealing Southall will be sleeping on sofas and on living room floors tonight due to 14 years of failure from the Conservatives. Ealing Council has joined over 100 councils trying to remove the barriers to give these kids a decent home to live in, something the party opposite don't seem to care about. As part of the government's plan for change, will the Prime Minister...
Quite a few others saying it, but not Keith. Change isn't hitting back.
We can secure the future of council housing for those children sleeping on the floor tonight.
Well, she's right to raise this very serious issue. We are committed to working with every council to deliver the biggest increase in social and affordable housing in a generation. We're immediately taking action to reform the right to buy, to enable councils to borrow more cheaply, and investing in affordable homes programme.
Paul Kohler.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I entered active politics, after an attack in my home was misused by others to promote their anti-EU, anti-immigrant agenda. My life was saved by two brave police officers from Wimbledon Police Station. As a family, our lives were transformed by a restorative justice session organised by the charity Why Me, where we met one of my 4 attackers in prison. Will the Prime Minister meet with me to discuss how his government can give restorative justice...
That's interesting, Andy, how none of the Devonian MPs have a local accent.
System, reduce recidivism and cut crime and costs.
Can I send my sympathy for what the honourable member experienced? It must have had a profound impact on him and, of course, on his family. I too have seen the power of restorative justice, which does enable victims to receive answers, and perpetrators have to face the human cost of their crimes. Under the Victims Code, all adult victims must be told about restorative justice and how to access it. We can always do more, and I'll ensure that he gets the meeting that he wants with the relevant minister.
Charters.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm pleased to announce that this summer I'll be going on paternity leave again for baby number 2. And may I congratulate the Secretary of State for Scotland on his new arrival. The Chancellor spoke brilliantly this morning on growth, and I'm pleased to reveal that new JRF research shows that by increasing paternity leave,
don't breed
we
any
could
more
increase
neoliberals.
economic growth by £2.6 billion a year. So can I ask the Prime Minister, will he review statutory paternity leave? And from one father to another, will he meet with me and the Dad Shift to support and discuss how we can support new parents?
Well, can I wish him and his wife all well with their new arrival? We are conducting a review into parental leave. because you can't grow the economy if parents have to choose between work and their children. And thanks to the Employment Rights Bill, which they oppose opposite, 30,000 more fathers will get paternity leave. And that's the difference, Mr Speaker. The Leader of the Opposition wants to roll back parental rights. We're extending them.
Duffield.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Since
To be fair, that is something a little more positive if that comes through.
Green subsidies by the government for burning 27 million trees per year. That's enough money for 5 years of pensioners' winter fuel payments. While Ofgem has been asleep at the wheel, a recent KPMG report has concluded that Drax claimed those subsidies illegally.
Drax.
Will the Prime Minister today demand
Yeah.
to see that KPMG report before giving another £1 of taxpayers' money to Drax?
In fact, do get me started. Okay, so Drax, if you're not familiar with Drax, this is one of the so-called biofuel companies in the UK. When you hear biofuel, it's meant to sound as though it's more environmentally friendly. Essentially, it just means burning shit. It burns wood, a lot of wood, for example, heavily environmentally unfriendly, and as you just heard, the other nefarious business practices, shall we say. It's part of the whole greenwashing process to try and label energy production as clean or biofuels in this term, but it's no, it's dirty energy and it's dirty money. Okay, carry on. When it does stop buffering, which it will.
Thank you for raising this. It is an important issue. Of course, we will look at the report, but I don't join in her description. We will look at the report.
Back day. Thank you, Mr Speaker. As you well know, Lancashire is a wonderful county full of great businesses and hard-working people.
That's true.
But for too long, we've been held back by an outdated two-tier council system. The government's English devolution bill is a massive opportunity for us to get back in the fast lane and catch up with the likes of Manchester and Liverpool. So will the Prime Minister join with me in calling on all Lancashire leaders to work together in the interests of our residents, putting aside political differences and self-interests, and move forward in good faith to unleash Lancashire's huge potential?
Well, he, of course, has given decades of service to his community, Mr Speaker. I'm a firm believer in moving power out of Westminster into the hands of those with skin in the game. That's how you boost growth, create opportunities.
Just before he prattles into his latest attempts at a party political broadcast, where that's concerned, there are specific political parties out there right now who advocate for the northern counties to become independent from Westminster. The Northern Independence Party is the one that I'm referring to. I don't know if you're familiar with them. But the fact that the northern counties get the least amount of investment back despite putting in half of the GDP of the country just really shows you how one-sided it is. And I do not for 1 minute believe that an establishment man such as Keir Starmer would support devolution or independence of the northern counties, including Greater Manchester and Lancashire, Yorkshire, other surrounding counties, Cheshire, and so on. Specifically, the counties I'm referring to where the Northern Independence Party is concerned is every county north of Cheshire to the Scotland border. For those of you familiar with UK geography, so yeah, that includes those counties as well as Northumbria and Cumbria. Keith won't back that. Absolutely not. He's 100% establishment or 100% Westminster. Yeah, this is, I guess you could say, a mirror version of the Northern Powerhouse crap that we got during the Cameron years, with George Osborne. Yeah, it's kind of that's the closest I can put it. Just the tour in a red rosette version. That's all it sounds like to me.
And drive reform. I'm pleased that we're establishing a combined county authority in Lancashire. Our ambition is for mayors across all areas of England who can take advantage of the powers set out in the devolution white paper, including in Lancashire.
Clive Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I declare.
And don't forget, this is a man who doesn't even like democracy within his own party. He very much likes to remind people it's his party, he's the boss. He parachutes in candidates when he wants to. No, he's not in favour of that sort of thing.
But we're going to have to wait until at least 2037. Can the Prime Minister please explain to these visitors and the House why he thinks that it is acceptable that staff and patients dodge buckets collecting rainwater from leaking roofs for another 18 years? And will he meet with them and explain it to them face to face?
Well, I'm grateful to him for raising this on behalf of his constituents. So I speak obviously to them, and his constituents will hear the answer. There wasn't a plan for this building.
He won't go and meet him. He hates things like that. He hates public appearances.
And it was undeliverable. It only existed in the head of Boris Johnson. And they're the frustration for his constituents. I really understand it. They thought, because they were promised, that they were going to get something which the party opposite knew was never going to be delivered. That is absolutely unforgivable. We will pick that up. We've put in place a funded scheme to build as quickly as we can, but it's got to be funded. It's got to be deliverable. That's the difference between the approach that we're taking and the approach that they took.
Stop, he's already dead.
Minister meets with him and his constituents in order to explain that more fully to them.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In China, DeepSeek has developed an AI model almost as good as the most advanced technology from OpenAI. In the US, they're investing up to $500 billion in building out data centres. Now, to build data centres, you need two things: lots of energy and ideally cold weather. Fortunately, Scotland has both of those in abundance. So will the Prime Minister back Glasgow being an AI growth zone to help bring investment and solidify the UK's place as the third largest AI market on earth?
Well, I thank my honourable friend. What a contrast, the SNP, a strong Labour voice championing economic growth in Scotland. The AI developments this week show why we're right to put artificial intelligence...
We mentioned on the last live stream the the polling suggests that nearly every single seat that Labour won is going to go straight back over to the SNP. So no love for you up there, north of the border, as we say. No, absolutely not. Read it and weep, Keith.
Intelligence at the heart of our plan for change. We've already secured £39 billion of AI investment, which will create 13,000 jobs across the UK. I agree with him that Scotland has real potential for AI growth zones. I'll make sure that he gets to meet with the relevant minister to discuss.
John Milne.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency of Horsham, my local council faces a £500,000 tax bill from the rise in national insurance, and my local hospice, St Catherine's, has had to mothball a brand new ward. What message does the Prime Minister have for all the public services that are outright losers at the hands of the very tax that's supposed to save them?
Well, I'm grateful for him for raising this, as he knows the settlement to local councils was an increase this year, so they have more money to deal with the problems they face. They were underfunded, broken by the last government. We've now put that support and that funding in place. That's the right thing to do.
He was just there shaking his head.
It was such great news when the government decided that it was right to pay compensation to the LGBT veterans who'd unfairly lost their jobs. But unfortunately, they're not alone. There are others who've been prepared to lay down their lives on behalf of the country who have also been treated disgracefully. I include in that list my constituent who was sacked from...
Well, if it isn't another lawyer who doesn't know what genocide is or collective punishment.
...to righting that wrong and for meeting my constituent.
Sorry about the buffering.
Well, I'm grateful to her raising this really important issue. All those who serve our country deserve our fullest respect and gratitude. Mr. Speaker, that's why we're righting the historic wrongs inflicted on LGBT veterans, already significantly increasing compensation available and enabling them to get their ranks restored. I know the issue she's...
Well, your mate Donald, who you've been brown-nosing recently, is throwing them out of the armed forces. And are you going to relay those sentiments to him the next time you speak to Donald over the phone, Keith? No? You're happy to support someone like that? Hypocrite.
Is a real issue to the Foreign Secretary. He's looking at it, and I'll make sure she gets to talk to him about it, but we do need to deal with this
nice to see you, Bird's
injustice.
Nest Ratfest.
Jim Allister.
Thanks for joining us.
Given the strategic commitment to Irish unity in the programme for government of the new government in Dublin, can I ask the Prime Minister whether he and his government have a strategic and economic interest in retaining Northern Ireland within the United Kingdom? And if they do, why then is he continuing with a system whereby, in over 300 areas of law in the economic sphere, Northern Ireland is subject not to UK law, but to the same laws that apply in the Irish Republic, laws we don't make and can't change?
Mr. Speaker, we're proud of and totally committed to the Good Friday Agreement. And Northern Ireland matters to this government. It matters to me. He will know I worked there for 5 years with the police service in Northern Ireland.
Keeping ownership
I want to see Northern Ireland secure, safe for all communities and thriving in the future. And I believe that it can be. We'll be doing everything to make sure that it does.
Elvin Bailey. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow marks the 20th anniversary of the loss of Royal Air Force aircraft X-Ray Victor 179 and the 10 UK service personnel that were killed on board. Known to their friends as Steady, Smudge, Gary Nick, Pards, Gibbo, Richie, Bob, Dave, Jonesy and Paddy. These people were killed on a routine flight between Baghdad and Balad as a result of a poorly protected aircraft. This was the largest single loss of life in the Iraq War. Would the Prime Minister join with me to thank and recognise our service personnel for their service and their sacrifice? And the
victims of an invasion that should have never happened in the first place. This is what war does to families, people.
Such a tragic moment.
Well, I thank him for reminding the House of this case, and I know that condolences of the whole House remain with the families of these brave soldiers. We will never forget the vital role they played to support the coalition operation in Iraq. Can I thank him and pay tribute to his service? We are immensely proud of our armed forces and their courage and dedication as they keep our country safe.
Jeremy Wright. Speaker, the Prime Minister may know that this time last week, representatives of those who've been injured seriously by COVID vaccines were giving evidence to the COVID inquiry, including my constituent Kate Scott. I hope he also knows that the compensation available to those people isn't adequate and isn't adequately accessible. I'm grateful to the Health Secretary for the thought I know he is giving to how that position may be remedied. But can I ask the Prime Minister to give his personal support to that objective? Not just because it's the right thing to do for the people affected, but also because it will support the objective we should all share to maintain public confidence in vaccination.
Well, thank you for raising this, and as he says, the Health Secretary is looking at it, and I can assure him I will also look at it with the Health Secretary, and we will get back to him as we do so.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This week I heard a story from an elderly resident in Bedworth. Colin Basra phoned the GP surgery to make an appointment for his elderly wife and was told no appointments would be available for 3 months. Does the Prime Minister agree with me that this is utterly shocking and horrifying and is a direct result of 14 years of neglect by the party opposite?
I thank her for raising it. She's right to raise it.
Plus
She's
6 months of
right.
neglect from
the
the Labour
damage they did to
Party,
the
you forgot
NHS
to
was
say. You think
absolutely
Streeting's going to swoop in
We are taking steps to
and
make
solve
sure
this?
more GP appointments will be available. We're getting the waiting list down. We're putting the investment in the NHS. As with everything else, we're clearing up the mess that they left behind.
Blame game.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister should know that my constituents in Romford are shocked, angry and dismayed by the suggestion by the ONS that the population of this country will rise to 72.5 million by 2032.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker,
Yeah.
that's 500,000 people a year, which is unsustainable. Who voted for that? And will the government do something to ensure that the population of this country is sustainable going forward? Because
Now, just before he gets the answer from reply, I should say, from Starmer, I just want to point out for anyone who, for whatever reason, thinks this country or any other country is overpopulated, whether that be because of migration, birth control, whatever it might be. This is nothing. This is nothing compared to what we face in the coming decades because of climate breakdown. There are millions of refugees across the planet, as I'm talking to you right now, people. But in the coming decades, that's going to rise to hundreds of millions and into the billions. The billions of refugees. So many countries are going to have mass immigration, a refugee crisis all across the world. The worrying part about this is obviously in certain parts of the world as well, we're seeing the rise of the far right. And so, as we're seeing now in the very early stages of climate breakdown, that's going to feed the Trumps, the Farages of the world into fueling hatred and often violent hatred. And there are going to be wars over this. There are going to be wars over resources. So, whatever people think about a migration crisis or a refugee crisis here in 2025, you haven't seen nothing yet, people. Believe me. Believe me. You might not have heard it here first, but that's the fact. That's the fact of the matter. It's happening. This is just the beginning. There's only a little bit left. Let's just finish this off.
because there is no mandate for such a colossal increase in immigration in this country.
I think he should talk to his leader.
It's far-right rhetoric.
Because net migration went through the roof under the last government, nearly 1 million, quadrupled. And who was cheering it on? Who was cheering it on? The
So this
leader
has
of
just
the
turned into
opposition.
who hates migrants
His
the most.
constituents are right to be concerned about the loss of control by the last government. We're taking control. We will bring these numbers down. But the record is absolutely clear, and it sits right there.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. We'll let the front bench change over.
There you go. And again, more hypocrisy. The stop the gangs thing that Starmer et al. Are going on about at the moment only echoes the stop the boats thing from the Tories. We all know that. We're all totally aware of that. That was a dreadful, dreadful performance there from all parties concerned. Dear me. Just gets increasingly worse, doesn't it? Just bring the background music up. So, what a thorough drubbing after last week's draw it appears that Postman Twats took some offence or had a bit of a wake-up call. He's been out training, probably doing a montage, you know, running around a track with a tyre strapped around his waist, or running up the stairs and hitting the punch bags and so on and so forth. He's absolutely blown the recent challenger away, 10-2. And although a few other MPs mentioned change a few times, I have to be very firm on the rule that it had to be Keith that says it. If I opened that up to the whole House next time, maybe that'd make a difference, or might change the contestant. Obviously growth would be a massive one at the moment. I'll have a bit of a think. I saw a few suggestions in the chat, so I'll mull over those as well. Thanks a lot for all of your suggestions, obviously. Politics Clive, great to see you in the chat as well, speaking of chats. 10-2 to Postman Twats. Hoyler's been just stopped. There he is. Yeah. Great stuff. Well, what can you say? What can you say about that then? Bad Enoch as well. Bad Enoch. Equally appalling. I had a good few facepalm moments in there. I couldn't believe it. What's that about Octo? $50 million in condom bombs, what? Interesting. Thanks Andy as well for throwing up the Lindsay Hoyle static emoji. So that was PMQs, just get rid of the bits and pieces here, but it was lies, nasty, vulgar lies. Quite correct. That's not all though for the live stream. I've still got one or two other things I'd like to go over. Please do stay where you are. Yeah, so up next I'm going to get into this big court case that I mentioned. Oh, not that one. Sorry, wrong button. Yeah, at one point there were 30 members of Just Stop Oil in prison. This mass appeal now applies to 16 cases. You might have seen a few bits and pieces about that today on your social media and whatnot. A few more well-known faces were there as well, including Chris Packham, who's been very supportive of Just Stop Oil over the years. I should say that's also a really good thing, really positive thing, of course. As well as Carla Denyer, who we're going to hear from in a moment. So yeah, the essential premise is that the sentences that were given, including up to 5 years in the case of Roger Hallam, who's the co-founder of Extinction Rebellion, as well as Just Stop Oil. I'll pull up an article first, and then I've got a couple of clips. So yeah, completely unjustified sentences, especially people who get higher sentences purely for speaking out about their concern about climate breakdown. You know, they're in prison for even longer than burglars, sex offenders, all kinds of other heinous crimes. It just doesn't make sense. So I'll just read out some of this article. What was that? There we go. Just going to adjust that so we can see that a bit better. That should do it. And of course there was a massive amount of support outside the court as well. So this appeal began today. There wasn't a ruling on it. It is, excuse me, still ongoing. Obviously there are 16 defendants, and it involves yeah, quite a lot of process. So they're from 4 separate cases. All of the people who are concerned took action, non-violent direct action, that is, in 4 separate cases. And the judges are Lady Carr, the Lady Chief Justice, and that's an appeal that they will argue the judges defied decades of precedent to hand them long jail terms for non-violent protest. A host of celebrities joined hundreds of protesters outside, like I said. We'll hear from some of those in a moment, like I just mentioned. Roger Hallam, who I also just mentioned, was imprisoned for taking part in a Zoom call planning roadblock protests on the M25. 3 years given to Larch Maxey, who is also a dear friend of mine, for occupying a tunnel outside an oil terminal in Essex in 2022. I actually took part in that action myself. I was arrested at the oil terminal in question, I should say. Regular viewers will know that I am a supporter and activist within Just Stop Oil. And 2 years for Phoebe Plummer, who of course threw tomato soup on glass-covered sunflowers by Vincent van Gogh at the National Gallery. Just a quick side note on that as well, slightly more positive news. Unfortunately, while Phoebe, who's another dear friend of mine, is still inside, Anna Holland, who carried out the action with Phoebe, you'll remember, was actually released on Monday after 122 days. She had a slightly shorter sentence than Phoebe, who's also been on trial for other actions, including speaking of Heathrow, the spraying of the Heathrow airport, which I mentioned recently alongside Jane Twill. So yeah, they're known as the Lord Walney 16, as it points out here, because by coincidence, the long sentences all came after the crossbench peer Lord Walney, who was appointed the previous government's advisor on political violence, published a report calling for groups such as Just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion to be labelled extreme protest groups and subjected to stringent restrictions like those applied to terrorist organisations. What a coincidence, what a coincidence, don't you think so, people? Zoe Cohen, who's an Extinction Rebellion spokesperson, she's also in Just Stop Oil as well, again, another friend of mine. You might remember Zoe from the time when she very controversially, people couldn't believe it at the time, was being interviewed on Sky News and chose to move off the couch and sit on the floor, which people really couldn't believe at the time. I don't know if you remember that from a couple of years ago. Wonderful lady as well, Zoe Coyne. I've had the pleasure of being involved with working with her quite a lot as well. Every citizen should have the right to effective protest, she says. It's a crucial part of democracy. These excessive sentences are designed to put people off protesting, but the laws that enable these sentences were written by think tanks that are funded by the corporations, oil money, and the obscenely rich, the same actors who are responsible for brutal inequality and driving us to extinction. Well said, Zoe. Greenpeace and Friends of the Earth were granted permission to intervene in the appeal, specifically in the case of 5 appellants, including Roger Hallam, who I just mentioned earlier on. As well as arguing that the sentences are excessive, groups say they are a breach of human rights legislation, which is absolutely true. Requires that sentencing must be proportionate where fundamental rights such as the right to protest are involved. And in my actions that I've done with Just Stop Oil, I've had acquittals as well as convictions in the cases where I was acquitted. Very often the European Convention on Human Rights came into my defence and other defendants' defence at the time as well, and it's an absolute fundamental human right that everybody should have. Just finally, Ariba Hamid, who's co-executive director for Greenpeace, said, "These long sentences for peaceful protests make it difficult to see modern Britain as the kind of mature, tolerant culture our parents and grandparents enjoyed. Hopefully cooler heads will realise that we could be throwing away something of great value to us all for the sake of avenging an inconvenience." Yeah, as I've pointed out so many times before, while Just Stop Oil Extinction Rebellion might hold up some traffic for a little bit or inconvenience others very slightly and temporarily, compared to what's coming up the road with the climate crisis, that inconvenience and disruption is absolutely minuscule. It's like comparing a subatomic particle to a galaxy. And Mobius, thanks for that comment there in the chat. Yeah, I do feel like at this point we don't have any other choice, essentially. We've been so failed by politicians throughout the years. Unfortunately, people are having to take things into their own hands. And I'm quite happy to do that. Although terrified at the same time. So it's just a quick article. Excuse me. Like I said, Carla Denyer was there as well. I'm going to play a clip from Carla Denyer's appearance. This was down in London. Unfortunately, I couldn't make that there today. Outside the Royal Courts of Justice. I've protested outside the Royal Courts of Justice before, specifically about 2 other former environmental prisoners. And at the time it was Josh Smith and Louis McKechnie, who were both in prison for 6 months. At the time, that was the last one I did outside Royal Courts of Justice. So what did Carla Denyer think? Let's have a look.
Parliament and government here and the courts are kept very separate for a reason. And as a result, the courts are supposed to be free from political interference. But when a so-called independent government advisor uses a high-profile report to denounce peaceful protesters, describing them as an extremist threat, while allegedly having meetings with the oil and gas companies who are the subject of those protests, well, that's going to have an impact. And that is the context today in which 16 people have been locked up for a total of 41 years for the crime of speaking the truth.
Hear, hear. Yeah, just a short clip, by the way. And, obviously, as I said, this is very close to home for me, this case. It's awful to see such injustices all around the world, but specifically by people who I really care for, dear friends of mine. It's absolutely awful. It's absolutely awful. So I will be keeping you up to speed with this appeal. Not sure exactly how long it could last. It could be over, perhaps, maybe by early next week. I'm not sure. I couldn't say. You never know with these things. I don't have the actual clip, but as I said, Chris Packham was there today as well. He had a sort of live interview with Good Morning Britain, Richard Madeley. Just absolute usual trash from Richard Madeley. Doing the same thing that people, that Piers Morgan does, harping on about allegedly ambulances being held up when they actually weren't. Just a really pathetic line of interview, and I thought Chris Packham handled him particularly well. I did want to play the clip, but I've had previous sort of copyright, not strikes, but Good Morning Britain don't like the clips to be used, so I've had to avoid that recently. But do check that out, do check that interview out. I believe it's on Just Up Oil's social media if you want to go there and check that out. You can see the full interview, so well done to Chris Packham for standing your ground and sticking up for the 16 people who are appealing. Also need to give a shout out to Rankson, who's another friend of mine. Definitely worth a follow on social media as well. That's Rangzen, Rankson. Someone who I've been out on demos and protests with a number of times before as well, for sharing this clip. He was down there in London. It's obviously a bit of a trek for me up here, but he was around and shared this clip earlier, which I thought was very good. It's a more musical way of protesting, just a short clip, but pay attention to the lyrics as well. It's also a little bit of an earworm. A good tune, this. So please do check that out. Shout out again to Rankson for that. I'll just turn the background music down. The handle for Rankson is @revoltinghippie, I should say. That's hippie with an IE. @revoltinghippie.
Which side are you on? 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 And all you warehouse pickers, a union is your right. Maybe don't pick products, maybe pick a fight. Hey, which side are you on? 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 Since Elon took on Twitter, it's filled up with hate crimes. Now your only ex we care about is the singer Grimes. Which side are you on? 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 Now Elon did a speech and he hardly is no showman. That little salute he did was anything but Roman. Hey, which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Hey, well, I know what side we're on, people. That's for sure. Great stuff there. Thanks a lot again to Rankson @revoltinghippie for sharing that clip. And a great amount of support that you can see from people, which was amazing. I really do get FOMO quite a bit with stuff that goes on in London, being that far away from it, where a lot of the action and demonstration and protest takes place. Not that we don't do any of it up here in the north, but with these big court cases in London and whatnot, so it's fantastic to see other organisations coming out as well, you know, because if they'll come for us climate protesters in Just Up Our, they come for anybody. And the same goes for Palestinian protest and any other, you know, form of protest as well. We definitely saw that recently at the last London protest, of course, with those unnecessary arrests on head stewards and so on and so forth. Alright people, I've got another comedy clip to come up as well. I will be doing a redirect or a raid as we get towards the end of the stream now, but please do stick around. Please don't go anywhere. And this is going to be the latest from Matt Green, who I'd also definitely recommend. Give Matt a follow if you don't do so already.
The first 2 weeks of Donald Trump's second and possibly final presidential term have seen a flurry of executive orders and proclamations, but also new images released of the first family. What do these official portraits tell us about the residents of the White House? Our fashion, Photoshop and sucking up to the powerful correspondent Jonathan Goodenough has more. Yes, that's right. By now you've probably all seen President Trump's new official portrait with its dramatic low lighting and defiant stare. A portrait of a leader who takes no prisoners. You mean commits war crimes? No, he also looks a bit like a villain in a 90s action film. And you might also notice he's wearing a blue tie, which could be a reference to popular comedy film Zoolander's Blues Steel, an expression he could be said to be attempting. Or maybe it's just the tie he was wearing that day. I don't think so. Everything in these portraits is very carefully chosen for its symbolic purpose, something that becomes clear if we look at the First Lady's portrait unveiled this week. What's the first thing you notice? Well, it's in black and white. Exactly. It's classic. Striking. So it doesn't have any colour. Yes, just like most of her husband's government. The pose is also distinctive. She's leaning forward, hands on the table. She's wearing a suit. She means business. What business? You know, business. What exactly that is isn't clear, but we know that whatever the business is, it'll be classy and in black and white. Mostly white. The setting is also important. The Washington Monument looms in the background, and the rhyming of her body with this well-known obelisk is striking. Do you mean she's standing up? The rhyming of her body with this well-known obelisk is striking. Yes. I'll tell you what I think is striking. That image looks very manipulated. Well, she chose to lean on a table, sure. No, I mean everything looks incredibly smooth. That's probably just good lighting. Her skin and hair look unnaturally shiny. Makeup can do wonders. Are you seriously suggesting that there was no post-production on the image, no editing, no Photoshop, no filters? Not that I'm aware of, and even talking about that could get me into trouble. So trouble? With who? With the Trump administration. Are you mad? Did you not get the memo? We don't say stuff like that anymore. They'll, I don't know, cut off access or set up an investigation or, God forbid, send someone to attack me, then pardon them. That sounds a bit paranoid. Or maybe just prudent. I'm not taking any chances. Which is why my next piece will be on Baron Trump. How does he manage to look so cool and normal? Thank you, Jonathan. Next up, as Rachel Reeves prepares to announce a third runway at Heathrow, we ask if she wants to encourage economic growth by committing to a project that won't happen for decades. Couldn't she just say we're going to rejoin the EU?
MattGreenComedy.com. Do check him out, people. Great stuff. Great stuff. Okay, people, I'm going to be rounding things up just now. Of course, I want to give another shout out to the members on the channel. I'll just remove the chat, if you'll forgive me for a moment. Special thanks again to everybody who supports the channel. Thanks for the gifted memberships tonight. Fingers crossed they'll go through. I'll report back to you about that, of course. Please do let me know if you've bought a gift membership for other viewers and that's bounced back and you've had a refund. I'm trying to stay on top of that. Great way of supporting the channel. Before we do go over to Helena at No Justice, who we're going to be redirecting raiding into, please do make sure that you've hit the thumbs up button on the stream. If you're watching back on a replay, please make sure you add a comment. I try and get back to as many comments as I can. Also, if you're watching back, super thanks are available on all videos and streams if you'd like to support the channel in that fashion. Thank you all for being here. It's been great to catch up. I don't think I could sit through PMQs if it wasn't for the fact that I get to do it with you good people, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, they, thems and comrades alike. As always, wonderful to chew the political fat, so to speak, with you good people. Hopefully I'll be seeing you across at No Justice as we redirect. Yeah, and just a reminder, please do check out recent content on the channel as well. So please do stick around. Hopefully I'll see you, like I said, over at No Justice. But until we bump into each other directly next time, take care everybody. And my left, I'll be seeing you soon. Good night.